Okay, a couple introductions. My name is Jeff Bernal. I'm an assistant principal here at Jackson Liberty High School, and I take care of the driving and parking here at this school. Mr. Tarver, unfortunately he's on vacation now, so I'll be filling in the role for Mr. Tarver today for the Memorial parents, but he is an assistant principal at Jackson Memorial, and he takes care of the driving and the parking over there. We also have two Jackson Police Department members. They're SROs, school resource officers, one here at Liberty and one at Jackson. Officer Colin Manafra is over at Jackson Memorial, and Officer John Pajowski is the SRO here at Liberty. And they're going to be giving you some information and perspective from the police department in regards to driving. And we also have the chaplain of the Jackson Police Department, Reverend Dan Schaefer, and he's going to be talking to you about some of the things that he has witnessed over the years in Jackson. Okay, so some of you may be wondering why we have a parent driving meeting when it's the kids that are going to be driving. A few reasons for that, which we're going to be going over. Not sure how many of you are aware of the past teen driving accidents that we've had in Jackson. It was really bad going back 10, 15, 20 years. And right around 2007, 2008, the school, the town, a bunch of organizations that you can see up on the screen here got together to try and figure out a way to eliminate any more traffic fatalities. We kind of just had enough of seeing our students being killed in car accidents. And one of the things that came from that, and there was a lot of things that came from that, but one of the things that came from that meeting was to get the parents together for a meeting to talk about safe driving. Okay, so why a parents' meeting? We do a lot here in the school, okay? All sophomores are required to take driver's education in their health classes. And they get a lot of information from the teachers, they get a plethora of information from our school resource officers. We do a lot with the kids here. I'm gonna go over a few of the things that we do. Before the junior formal, we have an assembly for all juniors going over things about safe driving. Two things that the seniors do, and I would recommend you keep your ears and eyes open during the springtime, during the senior prom, and sometimes it's a little bit before, over depending on the school. There are two programs that the seniors put together, and they do this in conjunction with the school resource officers. One is Project Graduation, okay, and all parents are invited to attend. The other is Grim Reaper, another program put together by the seniors and the school resource officers, and it's solemn and it's serious, and the kids do a wonderful job, and it's talking about the troubles that we have with drinking and driving, texting and driving, all those things that get our kids in trouble when they're behind the wheel. I highly recommend, if you can make the time, to come see those programs when they have them at the particular school that your child goes to. We have a Don't Text and Drive program that we do. Obviously, it's targeting texting and driving because that's become a real problem with kids and accidents. We started something called hashtag Drug Code. It's a 2-day program for freshmen in health classes to discuss marijuana, alcohol, and opiates. We have a lot of guest speakers that come in. Local and state police come in and do assemblies for our kids. Trauma center professionals, family members of teens involved in fatal car accidents, teens involved in driving programs, driver education instructors, and other outside parties. They all come into our schools and talk to our kids about the importance of being safe behind the wheel. But we have a parents' meeting because you guys are probably the greatest influence on your kids while driving. I can speak personally right now. I have one son that's going off to college, so he's already got his license. But my daughter just got her permit, so I'm the one that's in the car. Every time I pick her up somewhere, Dad, let me drive. And I got the feet brakes going through the car into the street while she's driving. When I'm driving, if I'm texting on the phone, or I'm speeding to get through that yellow light, or I'm speeding when it's rainy out or snowy, she's going to think that that's okay? So we need you guys to really push those good behaviors while your kids are behind the wheel. And that's why we have a parents meeting tonight. You're the greatest influence on them. They're going to watch your actions and mimic your actions. So we ask that you guys help us in keeping your kids and our students safe. A couple things we're going to go over today. The application process, what you need to do, how we as a school use parking as a motivational tool, okay? It is a privilege, not a right, to drive in Jackson, in the school district. Again, you get your Jackson Police Department perspective, and then at the end, there's about a 15-minute video. The kids see it in their health classes, but it's something that we'd like to show you guys as well. So, with that, this is for 12th grade only. Now, Liberty does have something in the spring where we do let juniors drive, but there's a whole other process for that, and it doesn't really entail you guys right now. So in order for a senior to be able to drive, they have to have 90 credits going into their senior year. If they don't have their 90 credits, they can't drive until they do get their 90 credits. So if they get their 90 credits after the first semester, we can go through the application process, but a parent has to be at this meeting, so even if they don't have the credits yet, it's good that you're here. In good standing, meaning financials and conduct, probation, discipline stuff, I'll go over that in just a minute. And then they need to submit a bunch of stuff. Fill out the application. We're going to need a copy of the driver's license, and we'll make the copies for you. You can do it on your own, but we'll make them for you if you can't. Copy of the insurance and copy of the registration, and then they pay $20 cash or money order. We don't accept checks. Or do we do money orders? Cash or money order, right? Okay. And they can be brought to the assistant principal's office. For Liberty students, it's my office. Ms. Seach will take care of that. My office is by the bus ramp. Over at Memorial, it's Mr. Tarver's office. His office is in the Memorial side, the Bernie Ryder wing, as soon as you walk in to the right. Like I said, Ms. O'Connor will be doing that today if you have all your stuff ready to go. Thank you, Officer Manoffer. Okay, went over that. If you don't have an application, there are some out here. If you're not going to do it today, you could also get it on the website, print it out and fill it out. I went all over that. So, Liberty students, you can start picking up your tags after the meeting today, once all the parents have signed. So if you want to send your kids back to school, send them to my office, they can start picking up their tags today. After today, it will be from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. And if they don't get it by then, anytime once school starts after school, okay? Okay, so I said we use parking as a motivational tool. Attendance can affect if your child can come and drive and park on school grounds. All right, this is all in the student handbook, so if they start getting too many lates, we are going to revoke their tag for a certain amount of days. All right, it might be 10 days for the first infraction. If they keep on with the attendance, it might be 30 days. And if the attendance keeps going down, we're going to revoke their tag for the remainder of the semester or the remainder of the year. Okay, and the same goes for lates. They can get a certain amount of lates, and then their tag is going to be revoked for a certain amount of days. Once it goes above too many lates, the tag is going to revoke for the remainder of the semester or the remainder of the year. So being a privilege, you guys have to do what's right on your part as parents in getting your kids here to school and on time so they can drive to school. Behavior, they have to behave properly while in school. So discipline can affect if they can drive to school or not. And there are certain instances that they may be put on conduct probation. All this stuff's in the handbook. I'm not going to go over every instance while they can be put on, but there are some instances that are a single incident and they can be put on conduct probation. If they're on conduct probation, not only can they not participate in sports or activities or clubs, but they can't drive to school if they have a parking tag, okay? Like I said, there are single incidents, but then there's accumulated discipline that can put you on conduct probation as well. You can see all of those incidences in the student handbook, which is found on the website, and your kids know what those incidences are already. Unsafe driving. So if you're recklessly driving on school grounds, you can have your tag revoked. Again, it could be for a certain period of time, or it can be for the remainder of a semester or the year. We have security that's out in the parking lots that check for safe driving. They check for students wearing seatbelts. They check for students driving and being on their phone, texting, or speaking on their phone. And they let us know these things. We will talk to the kids, all right? Most of the time, we'll give them a warning but if it continues, we're probably going to revoke their tag. Now, there's something called the Memorandum of Agreement that we as a school district have with the Jackson Police Department. So if kids are getting tickets outside of school for speeding, reckless driving, the Jackson Police Department lets us know, okay? And that can also affect if they can drive to school or not. So, like I said, we want the kids to be safe while they're driving. If that means that we have to revoke their tag for a little while, that's what we'll do, all right? It's important that they know that they can't drive recklessly or speed and do those things that are going to get them tickets outside of school, because they will be, it'll affect them here in the Jackson School District as well. And finally, the credit eligibility, I went over that. You must have 90 credits, which means you're as a senior standing in order to be able to get that parking tag, okay? Any questions that you guys have, if you have anything that I just went over, we'll take care of it after the meeting. I'll be out in the foyer there, as well as these gentlemen, if you have any questions once they're done with their thing. So without further ado, I will bring up Officer Pajowski from the Jackson Police Department, SRO here at Liberty, give you a couple of perspectives from them.
Good morning. Thank you for taking time out of your day to attend this meeting. One of the most precious things that, as a parent, myself and Officer Knopper as well, is our kids. Kids come to school, we entrust the school for the safety, but then at some point we got to relinquish that, right, when they start driving, and that's why we're doing this program. I'm a police officer now in my 24th year. I started in Seaside Heights before coming to Jackson. I've been a school resource officer, school cop, since 2003. So I choose to be around teenagers every day for the last 13 years, all right? And I get their perspective too on stuff like this, as far as going into the classrooms. Like Mr. Bernola said, we do have a memorandum of agreement, which means whenever a student in district, a juvenile in district, does something outside of school on a weekend at night, whether it's driving or even criminal related, we do communicate with the school right away and let them know what's going on. Please go on the district website and review the district policy regarding students and driving on school and school property. As far as police officers go, if something's going on, we get involved. Be it that maybe a student was smoking weed in the car in the parking lot. We are allowed to search a car. We don't need search warrant anymore. We don't need parents' permission, but just review the policy on the district website. The student must have a valid New Jersey driver's license. We've ran into this problem in the past. People moving in from other states, and in other states you can get them at a young age. You have to have an current New Jersey driver's license, and that procedure, that process is pretty quick. If you go to DMV and apply for your child or even you to get a New Jersey driver's license, I think it's $20, and they just transfer the information over. If your child is suspended, has a suspended driver's license, they cannot drive to school. If they get caught driving to school with a suspended license, that's an additional ticket, and then that suspension is extended, okay? Some of the more common violations I just want to go over with you as far as teenagers go that we deal with. Racing on the highway, that's a 5-point ticket. Reckless driving, another 5-point ticket. Careless driving, 2-point ticket. The speeding, 1 to 14 miles an hour is a 2-point ticket. 15 to 19 is a 4-point ticket. And 20 and over is a 5-point ticket. All of these things I just mentioned, if on the provisional license, and I'll go over that in a minute, I know our judge will suspend the license for that. Tailgating, 5 points. Passing a school bus, 5 points. Leaving the scene of an accident, 2 points. Leaving the scene of an accident with injury, 8 points. Leaving the scene of an accident with death, that's jail time. Failure to report a crash. And this is one thing we go over in our classrooms with the students, is we tell the students, call you guys first, the parents, if they get into a crash, okay? And then you guys, depending on what's going on, if you call us, that's great. If you don't call us, depending if it's a minor crash too, that's fine too. But if it's a failure to report, they get into an accident, they don't call you, they don't call us and leave. That's, again, if there's injury, stuff like that, there's a lot of fines associated with that, and I know our judge here in town is suspending licenses. Possession of drugs in a motor vehicle. If that ticket is issued, not criminal charges, ticket, motor vehicle ticket, that's a 2-year loss of license, automatic. All right, so one of the things we talk to the students over and over about is obviously not doing drugs, but don't have the drugs in their car with friends. DWI, DUI, just so you know the difference, DWI is alcohol related, DUI most of the time is drugs related. When it comes to a minor, and when it comes to alcohol, drinking, and driving, a minor actually is 20 and younger. Okay, if we're talking about a juvenile, 17 or younger, if we just smell alcohol, it's enough for an arrest. Okay, then to DWI, we're still going to treat it, we're still going to bring them down to headquarters, we're still going to process them, do the alcohol test, whatever we've got to do. All right? When it comes to drugs, if they're driving and they're high and they get caught, it's a DUI. With that, we're going to send them out to get blood taken. Again, we do not need parents' permission if they're driving and they get caught and we suspect them under the influence of narcotics. And so then it becomes a DUI. Eluding police, we really don't have that anymore, but I'm going to tell the kids that they can get arrested for that if they try to ditch us, okay, especially if it leads to a chase. That's an arrestable offense. Also, outside of school, not so much driving, just understand this, when it comes to if a student, a juvenile gets arrested for drugs or whatever behavior, down at the county, those judges are suspending licenses. So if a juvenile gets arrested for getting into a fight at a party, okay, which causes injury or something along those lines, and they go before the judge down at the county, they are suspending licenses. So as far as the restrictions go on a license, this is after they get their permit, this is their first license, their provisional license, their GDL, the baby license, as the kids call it, or the yellow bar license. All right, these are the restrictions on there. All right, cannot drive from 11:01 p.m. to 5 a.m. All right, there are some exceptions in there if it's an emergency, work, religion, school event, stuff like that. But just to drive around Jackson for no reason, in our state, they can't drive after those hours. Everyone in the vehicle must wear a seatbelt. That includes you, the parents, as well. So if you're driving with your child, all right, and you're in the car, you have to wear that seatbelt as well. Cannot operate any handheld or hands-free electronic device that includes Bluetooth, unless it's an emergency. Only one passenger. This gets a little confusing because the old law was different, and what your kids tell you, okay, is not true. They can only drive with one person in the car. That's it. It doesn't matter if they're brother, sister, or anything like that. One person. The only exception is if your child has a child, so your grandkids. So your child can drive with their child plus one person. Other than that, it's just one person. So if you have 3 kids and your oldest son or daughter drives to school, they can only drive with one other brother or sister, and that's it. The only exemption to that is if you, the parent, are in the car, then they can drive with however many people. And that stays on the license for 1 calendar year. And those restrictions don't automatically come off. I tell your son or daughter, they have to go to DMV and exchange the license and get the red bar license, full license. And then these restrictions come off their licenses. As far as tickets go, when it comes to provisional license, it used to be you could plea bargain down to 0 points. Unfortunately, the state changed that law, and you cannot plea bargain down to 0 points anymore. So if your kid gets a 2-point reckless driving ticket, you can't plea bargain down to 0 points. They get a 4-point speeding ticket, something like that, it can be downgraded to a 2-point ticket, but not to 0. Some of the programs we do, Live at 20, these are senior-based. These are for seniors. 4-day visit in the classroom, Live at 25, like Grim Reaper, like Mr. Grignola said. That's to show the impact of what's going to happen if somebody dies during the school year, the loss of that person. And a project graduation, that's all for the seniors. We do a 2-day visit with the sophomores, okay, talk about different driving habits and what to do, what not to do, and a 3-day visit with the juniors. And one of the things we encourage the students to do is if they're wherever, party, and I always say, you know, if you happen to get drunk, all right, I tell them, please call your parents. That's one thing we stress. Now, we're not encouraging, we're not endorsing, not condoning for juvenile to get intoxicated, okay? Because they're going to go home and tell you that. Officer John, Officer Manafra said I can get drunk as long as I have a designated driver. And that's not what I'm saying here. But we do tell the kids, please call your parents in that situation. As far as driving on school property, parking on school property, if it is like reckless or something along those lines, we can issue tickets as police officers on school property to whoever, all right? And we do spot checks and we can tow cars if needed, depending on that situation. Like Mr. Bergnola said, we're going to answer questions at the end, all right? And at this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Bergnola.
Thank you, Officer Wojcicki. I'm going to bring up Reverend Dan, and he is going to give his perspective on some of the things he does as the chaplain of the Jackson Police Department.
Thank you, sir. I have the worst job in the world. You don't want to see me on your doorstep with another officer. In Jackson, 28 years. And unfortunately, I keep a diary, and I've done it over 60 times. Not just kids, but industrial incidents. It's usually late night, early morning, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Standing on somebody's doorstep to bring the worst news that they'll ever hear in their entire life. The worst news. The old knock on the door. Can't tell you how many times an officer, we look at each other, but maybe nobody's home, maybe we don't have to do this right now. But then maybe a light comes on upstairs, hear a dog bark. Door opens, there stand the mother, father, say, yes, officer's going to help you. May we come in, please? Very sorry to inform you that your son was killed in a motor vehicle accident on East 7th Highway this evening. Very, very sorry to bring you that news. You have no idea the emotions that we see when people hear that their most precious thing in their life, the most precious being in their life is no longer there. Too many times, as the principal said, it's getting better, getting better. 3 young boys, Bowman Road, some of you might remember that. 3 young girls, East Veterans by the ball field. 2 sisters, South Oak Chapel. I had to go to all of those homes and bring that news. About 1.5 years ago, the clergy in town, we got together and we went out to South Oak Chapel and we brought a chain with us. And we had some of the mothers who lost their children here in Jackson. And we held a chain, and the mothers took the bolt cutters, and they cut the chain. It was almost like you got to break this cloud that's over Jackson. Probably one of the most dramatic experiences along this line was we had an accident one evening, and I went to the back of the ambulance, and the doors opened. And the paramedic said, Reverend, we just pronounced her dead. Sorry. I remember my sergeant saying to me that the mother and father are up there behind the yellow line. Would you guys go up and break the news? I'll never forget this as long as I live. As we were walking up to that yellow line, to that yellow tape, I saw a man about the distance between me and Officer Wojcicki, and he raised his hand and he says, I don't want to see you, sir. I don't want to see you. No, I don't want to see you. I said, sir. I said, excuse me. I said, the paramedic had your daughter in the ambulance and they just pronounced her dead. It was just a few weeks before that they sat in a meeting like this, and they remembered me, and they didn't want to see me. I love Jackson, I love our kids. I'm part of all the programs, Deer Reaper, Operation Crash. I stopped at a yard sale not long ago, got out of my car and I was walking up the driveway. The lady said, "Oh my God, what are you coming here for? What happened? What happened?" I said, "I come to buy something." You see me at the diner, you know, Jackson Diner, mug rack, and I always have people come say, "I like you, but don't ever come to my house." I hope to God it ends. Nobody loves their kids like you do, but we're the ones that have to bring that life-shattering, the worst news you ever hear. So as you listen to Officer Manofra and Officer Kudowski and the school people, it's in our heart, it's a passion that this thing would stop. We love you, we love our kids. Don't drink, don't drive, don't text, and I hope I never have to go to another doorstep to bring that news. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Dan. And like Reverend Dan says, we love your kids, and that's why we do these programs, this assembly, because we don't want to be the ones, you know, informing you, going to the funerals. So please help us help you guys, or you guys help us having your kids drive safe. We're going to end the program. It's about a 15-minute video. The kids, the juniors, see this in their health class. Once we're done, again, remember, when you exit the Liberty, parents go to the right side where the concession stand is, and the memorial, if they could form a line against that far wall.
Thank you for watching Rear View, Looking Back, presented by State Farm. After you watch the video, take a look in the extra section for safe driving tips. There's also a section for parents, so encourage them to take a look. Thanks.
When I first got my license, everything was, really pretty cool.
It was my first car. It was something I get to do finally. I get to be responsible for myself.
Something I'd been looking forward to for probably 16 years, I guess. Or since I was old enough to know, that I was going to get to drive.
In the car, when you're talking to your friends and you're laughing and you're singing a song and stuff, you're not paying attention to what's exactly going on or how fast you're going in the car.
Teenagers don't have rules, you have rules at home. You have rules in your parents' car. You don't have rules in a teenager's car. Not at all. We were playing around, of course, I mostly was on the road, but you know how kids are. Of course you look in the rearview mirror, seeing what everyone's doing in the back seat.
They were just average kids. Greg had driven 2 years and never had a ticket and never had an accident. They drove a little fast, but what kids don't.
I got in the car to go to school because I got picked up from Ashley every day. Me and Natasha argued over who was going to sit in the front seat, and she won the argument, of course.
It was my friend's 21st birthday, and I was, just having a few with him.
It started out just to be a normal morning. They usually took off for work about the time I went outside on the farm and started chores and things, and they were just joking around in the morning, and it was a cold winter morning, and roads were good, really didn't think anything about it.
She reached over with her left hand to grab something out of the center console, and when she reached over, it kind of just swerved the car a little, and we were going about 65 miles per hour, and the speed limit was actually 45.
I was driving, and it was, I think, at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were heading home. We were doing 90 plus mile an hour around a curve, and when we flew straight off that curve and into an embankment, and it was pretty deep. Hit head on, and that was where it stopped. You know, it pushed the whole front end of the truck back on us.
Police had said it looked like, for some reason, Greg had gotten a little off the edge of the road. When he pulled back on, he overcorrected and spun around sideways, and then went through the ditch, and the driver's door hit the power pole. And they estimated he was going 79 when he lost control and probably hit the pole around 50 miles an hour. So
we had to drive by it in order to get to the hospital. We just knew that our whole reality had changed, and as bad as the accident looked, you know, we didn't know if we had any sons left.
we knew that Greg couldn't have survived, and we just prayed that Steve was able to come out.
There were 4 people in the back seat, 1 in the passenger. It was just us 6 going out for a good time. It was actually 3 couples. Next thing I know, I do see a hand pulling the steering wheel. And, you know, the first time I could correct it. You know, the second time he pulled again, and the car went into a slide where I couldn't get out of the slide. It just went sideways and right into a tree. And the next thing I know, I wake up, looking around, not knowing what's going on. You know, there's dust everywhere. And I see Robbie next to me, and 2 guys run into the car, asking if we're okay. And I'm just like, what just happened? When it hit this tree, it wrapped around it. And as the back end went around it, 3 of my friends went out the back window. There was Jenny, and then Jesse, and then Tasha in the far back. And there was Lester trapped inside the car still. And that's when it hit me like, whoa, they're not just, unconscious, they're dead.
The car actually spun for about 200 feet, and then it hit the light pole.
911 emergency, John.
Yeah, there was just an accident on Sahara right before is that Sloan? I think it's before Sloan. It's really bad. It's really bad.
Are you okay?
I wasn't in the accident. I just saw it. This is all my friends. And then,
Your friends are involved in this accident?
all of them were. Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my God.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing?
The car is in half. It's split in half. The other half is down the street. And my friends are all screaming in it.
I remember hitting the pole and then opened my eyes, and there was just a bunch of metal everywhere, really. When the car hit the pole, it actually split in half. The front of it went about 50 feet down the road, I believe. I couldn't see anything from my waist down, and then I looked up in the front seat, and the hardest part about it was that my 2 best friends, the girls I went everywhere with every day, the ones that I just hung out with and spent, shared my life with, they were both just bleeding. And the driver, she had hit her head on the steering wheel, I believe. And there was blood and brains coming out of her head. And Natasha, the passenger, she died on impact. When I heard them say there's been a fatality, and then I saw them pull a sheet over her body in the road, I didn't want to see I didn't want to know that. After an hour and a half, they grabbed under my arms, and they started to pull. And I started screaming because I felt this excruciating pain. And when they put me on the stretcher, when they finally got me out of the car, I heard him say, "We gotta find her foot." I lost consciousness, my heart stopped. I died for about 3 minutes on the helicopter.
I woke up in the hospital and didn't know why I was there or anything, I guess because of my head injuries. And, they told me that I was driving and I was going too fast around the corner and that my blood alcohol level was 0.07. At that time, 0.08 was the legal limit. So I wasn't actually considered, a DWI, but I was definitely intoxicated. My friend lost his life in the accident. I was actually in the hospital through my friend's funeral. I didn't even get, wasn't allowed to go, I actually have broke like every bone in my face. I've got a pin holding my cheek in there. I don't have a real cheekbone. I've got plates and screws all down through my jaws and screws in my arm, holding my arm together. It was broke.
We stayed down at the hospital for a week or 10 days because Steve was in such critical condition and moment to moment. And then we were also dealing with the fact that we had a funeral to plan. And it was an incredibly impossible situation. Really hard.
When we left the rehab hospital, they basically told us Steve will probably never walk again, never talk, never be able to eat. He was on a feeding tube, and the best prognosis wasn't very good.
I had to go to court and I had to testify. The first time I testified against him was to prove that I was innocent, to prove that he was guilty of pulling the steering wheel. He got jail time, juvenile, which I think it was up to 2 years for each account, which was 4 accounts, 4 kids that died. For me, as a result of the accident, I got 2 years of my license suspended, 250 hours of community service, and probation. And that was just for a speeding ticket.
I remember waking up in the hospital, and my mom was right there. And I had already gotten, I think they said 9 surgeries. I had already gotten my leg amputated. They found they reattached my left foot. I was crushed from the waist down. Every bone, my spine, my pelvis, my hips, my legs were all crushed into pieces, and I was never supposed to walk again. I shouldn't even be here. It's a miracle that I lived through that.
I was charged with involuntary manslaughter in the 1st degree, and I got charged with 2 counts of 2nd degree assault, which are all 3 Class C felonies. When I started going to court over it all, I was actually facing 21 years in penitentiary.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I need to come in for the weekend.
Just a bit, I'll get the jailer.
I got locked up in the county jail for about 6 months, and then when it finally all came together so we knew what was going to happen, I ended up doing 2 years worth of weekends in the county jail.
Put yours right in there. We'll book you in just a minute.
You got 4 walls there. It's not something to look forward to. A lot of people are like, oh man, it's the weekend, I dread mine.
It's hard, but I think Steve's stubbornness and endurance, and he had his mindset that he was going to recover, and he did. I remember not being able to talk that was frustrating. I should have said, slow down.
Especially when I go to grave sites. I get down on my knees and I say that I love them. I miss them very much. life is a lot different without them. I have not talked to any of their parents since the day of the accident. They don't want anything to do with me. I know they think that I'm responsible. They think me and my boyfriend were both responsible. And they figure, I was the driver of the car, so I should be able to control everything that happened in the car. And they just believe it was all my fault.
I had a lot of fun, and I knew every day when I woke up that I'd be with my best friends and we'd be having a good time. And it was something to look forward to every day. Never thought it would be taken away from me like that.
Everything was normal, fine. We was partying, having fun, and then that one night, it happened. Just knowing that my best friend lost his life because of me, I don't even have a word to tell you how bad that feels. It's hard to live with yourself.
Greg thought he was a good driver. He was very confident, and he was, for his age, a good driver. But all it takes is one mistake.
It was just a normal teenage day, to me that's all it was. And I believe people do see me as maybe a bad person or, not smart for, having 4 people in my back seat. But, a 16-year-old is a 16-year-old.
I loved life. I mean, I still do, but I loved my best friends more than anything in the world. I mean, they were my life. And it's so hard to explain to other teenagers right now like this. Like, they'll watch this and they'll be like, they'll feel bad, I don't want them to feel bad for me. I just want them to know that it can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have or how much fun you have in high school. It can happen to you, and you could lose the most important people in your life.
There are so many stories like these. In fact, you probably know someone who's been through something like this. Auto accidents are the leading cause of teenage deaths, but there are some simple things you can do to cut down on your chances of being involved in crashes like these. I know you've heard it before, but wear your seatbelt and slow down. Most of these crashes could have been avoided if the drivers were doing the speed limit. Also, as Sarah pointed out, keep control of your car. Don't have too many passengers, and don't let them goof around while you're trying to drive. And stay focused on the road. Don't try and do other things while you're driving. Whether you're getting something out of your console, playing with the radio, or trying to make a call, it just takes a second to lose focus. Try and give yourself plenty of time to react if something happens in front of you. Follow the 2-second rule. When the car ahead of you passes a stripe on the road or something that's not moving, you should be able to count to 2 before you pass the same object. Finally, don't put yourself in a bad situation. You know you're not supposed to drink and drive, but bad weather, congested traffic, and lack of sleep can cause problems too. In fact, most teen crashes happen at night. Just try and avoid these situations if you can. You already know you're supposed to do most of these things, but as you've seen, all it takes is one mistake. Take care and be safe out there.